Hello. Um, what I wanted to talk about doesn't seem so relevant or important anymore, but yeah, I was just kind of inspired to, well, I was just thinking, I was doing some advanced thinking. And I suppose it doesn't really matter what I think, but I was just felt like talking about my beliefs about a couple things, deeper spiritual things. And I guess you could say I'm sort of like a version of an atheist, I guess, but not in the sense that most people would think. So, like, my beliefs are very fluid, they're flexible, but, um, and they're sort of general. Um, but, you know, they're pretty certain because, you know, I know what I know. So, I'm no longer, I did when I was like 12 and 13. I was like searching for answers and I was like really curious about life and the universe and everything and how did everything start and where did we come from and like, what is all of this? And I was so curious about all of that. And I guess maybe my dad kind of saw some of that in me and he acknowledged it and he could really, he really saw me for me. Um, excuse me. Um, so yeah, um, he's no longer around in this life. He's somewhere, but he's not with me anymore. Well, you know, physically. Um, it's kind of hard when you've had the experience of somebody who's really like looked at you in the core of your being and seen you, and then they're gone. But you still have that memory of that feeling of that, what that's like. And you can't go back to just, not knowing or being dumb, or you can't go back to it. It's like, something on the internet that you see and you just can't unsee it. It's like okay, now you know. And um, I guess the best thing you can do is be grateful for that experience and hold your standards higher to, um, you know, only invest in people or relationships or connections that are actually going to, you know, give you that sense of belonging and fulfillment and sense of you just feel completely whole with someone, and it's easy, you know, just like that. So there was that. And then on the subject of, like, God, Jesus, and blah blah blah, 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 like, I think it's possible that Jesus could have been a man, Jesus, or Yahweh, or whatever you call him. Anyway, could have been a man that lived on the earth and delivered some enlightened messages to a community of people, which then spread, and people were really looking for something, some kind of answer to something, and so they really sort of like grabbed on tight to it, and like, this is it, this is this is the secret to our being, that kind of a thing. And yeah, I think it's ugh, great under my eyes. Ew. I think it's totally possible that he could have lived on the earth and was a real person and stuff like that. As far as like all of the Bible stories, like, I think that and this might be like unpopular opinion or whatever, but like, I think some of it's sort of like conjecture, like sort of it's like some of it's like to try to explain certain things in life when people didn't have, like, an explanation. Like, people will invent explanations. You know how that works? Um, as far as like, the beingness of a supreme being or God, um, I've actually listened to or studied some of these, like, some of these audiobooks are like floating around on YouTube. They're like floating around. And like, they describe it in a different way. Some of it, some of it's like related to like Neville Goddard and like, these like, spiritual whatever people that are like, manifest, blah, blah, whatever. And, but like, there's this channel that, that I've listened to recently, and it's called Giving Voice to the Wisdom of Ages. And, uh, and some of it, like, there's like some audiobooks and stuff like that where they use like this AI voice. It's like so annoying to listen to, but anyways, and they use this, like, where they're like reading this book and whatever. And one of the books that I recently was listening to, which is like, I don't know, it just, it just was like in my news feed. I don't know. So I was like, oh, what's that? And so I started listening to it, and it's this book called, oh my god, it sounds so like, woo woo crap. Like, it sounds so like the gods and goddesses of, whatever voice of the, what order of the something rather mystical, whatever. But I just wanted to say this one thing, and I'm totally rambling here, but I don't give a shit. My hair is totally crazy today. I believe that the power of God is within every person. Like, basically, like, depending where you are on a gradient scale of awareness, you are your own God. And sometimes when you're at a lower part of that gradient scale of awareness, when you're in that, and you're like enmeshed in the environment, the ecosystem, as my son calls it, of that like lower level of thinking kind of a thing when you're in that. And I've been there and stuff, so I know. I've been like all over the. Shut up. Anyway, but when you're at that point, let's say you're at a low level, it can look um, like what's real to you is that there's no reason for life. There's no purpose. There's no, you know, whatever. There's no, like, if you're depressed and whatever, and like, there's no God, there's no anything, there's no point to it, there's no joy, there's no love, there's no blah, 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 blah. Right? So that's all, but that's like at that level, and like, hopefully, honestly, like, hopefully you can sort of start to climb your way out of that bit by bit, baby step by baby step, and just sort of like at least get to more a level of reality and seeing life as like at least a little bit more like, a little more positive and a little more like, hey, things are okay. Like, it's okay. Like, everything's gonna be okay. And like, maybe there is something higher than all this that I can, strive towards and like would make me feel better and blah, blah, blah. That if I knew about it, that maybe I might be able to sort of like piece things together and just kind of like, climb out of this and like be really successful and like be really awesome, and that I am awesome, but like I might be even more awesome. So, so, so what I'm saying is like, when you're at that lower level, like it doesn't seem like any of that is really possible. It's just like, oh yeah, it's all just a bunch of bullshit, right? But then as you start to climb, you realize like, yeah, actually I shouldn't be sitting in this shit. I should get out of this shit, and like I should maybe like, clean off the shit and like not sit in shit. And then after a little while, after you're not sitting in shit for a while, like then you're like, actually, like that place up there, that kind of looks kind of cool, like that place, I want to be in that place. So then you like, little bit by little bit, you like climb up the side of the mountain, and now you're like a little higher, and you're like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Like, I don't feel so bad, and this is okay. Like, hey, this is okay. And then, after sitting there for a while, like you kind of go like, um you kind of like go, well, now that I'm here, well, what else is available? Like, what else can I do? um and then you start to go like, oh, you know what, like, I remember, like when I was a kid, and I used to have like all these big dreams and big visions, and like, whoa, like I had this like awareness about myself, and like I knew I was like special somehow, and like what happened to that? And then you just start to go like, oh yeah, like, and you start to, remember. Um, so where I was going with this was just basically that, like, I think everybody has that God potential within them. Like, they, you know, anybody through intentional work on themselves and, realizations and discovering some gems of truth and things that are true for them, obviously, and like things like that, they can sort of like, and also by like taking more responsibility for their life and their, what they've been doing in their life and stuff like that. Actually, yeah. And like looking at like how they've caused things and sort of like um, looking at, yeah, how they are cause of their own participation in life. You can ascend to higher states. So I think that a lot of stuff I've been listening to lately has been sort of along the lines of the like God is a concept and an individual can acquire a godlike awareness, and along with that, potentially, abilities that were previously unimaginable. So there you go. That's what I believe. I believe that that's possible. I'm not saying I am that. I'm just saying, like, I believe that's possible. And that, to each individual, that journey is uniquely their own and has to come about through their own determination and their own willingness and their own desire. Otherwise, it's sort of like what, you can't force awareness. That's stupid, you know. And they just keep being a slave, you know. um, so there's my rambling thoughts. Holy crapola! How long is this? 17 minutes. Oh my god. Okay, I gotta get back to work. Thanks for listening.